Hello, and welcome to County Board Wrap-Up, the monthly show where we take a closer look at some of the important decisions that the County Board made this month. Actions that the board took that affect you, your family, and our whole community. I'm Diana Sun, Director of Communications, and with me here again is Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey. She will share some of the details about the board's decisions at its April meeting. Libby, thank you so much for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Now, of course, this was a very important meeting as you all accomplished one of the most important responsibilities that you take on as a board in the year, and that is the adoption of the next fiscal year budget. Yeah. There was months of community discussion and a long process, and leading up to a budget that is more than $1 billion.
A billion
with a B.
1.4 total, I think. Yes, it's a lot of money.
Can you talk to us about that community process?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that because we did things a little differently this year. What was, usual is we got a lot of community input, we got emails, and actually I think I'll back up and explain a little bit how it works. We actually give direction to the staff on sort of specific issues that we want addressed in the budget.
And that's early on.
And that's very early on. I'm saying that's in the fall. So then the manager then gets information about what the revenue looks like and gets data about that, takes our direction, and then works through with the departments. So a lot of work has been done before we actually even start, before the manager obviously presents his budget, because he has to have that pulled together. And then once the manager presents his budget to us, then we start a round of lots of work sessions, and one of the things we did differently this time is that we video streamed those work sessions so that the public could watch without having to sit in the room. And in the past, people, if they wanted to follow what was going on in a work session, and frankly, a lot of work gets done in a work session, they didn't have to actually come in. Now they could sit at home and watch it, or watch it later, because a lot of times we'd be meeting in the afternoon, folks are at work, they can't watch. So that allowed, I think, people to get a lot more information about what was coming up, why the numbers were what they were, what were board member concerns, and then that should have informed better their input to us through emails, conversations, testimony. We had several public hearings. So,
and you took a lot of online feedback as well.
We took a lot of online feedback. Yes, we did, as we usually do. And we do keep track of all of that, and do read carefully. I mean, some of the comments are really thoughtful and really affect our decisions. And we have people coming in to actually speak with us. So it's a great way to kind of connect with the community. So the recommendations come to us. We take all of this input. A lot of it was online. One of the other changes we made, which I think I talked about maybe in our last session, was the public hearing. Before, you had to come, there was one public hearing to talk about the tax rate and one public hearing to talk about the budget itself. And those two groups never kind of came together. And obviously one group generally was saying, lower the taxes. And the other group was saying, give us more money. And so the board's like caught in the middle, and I think it's helpful for both sides to hear the arguments. Because people who are concerned about the tax rate, I mean, a lot of folks, it costs a lot to live in Arlington, and you need to understand that. People who talk about the need to, support our schools more, that's important. So it's a real balance, and I think the more the community understands that balance and sees it, the more support we'll have and understanding, and the better advice we'll get from our folks.
Did you feel that going through those months of the community input and process did help you, the board, to understand a good sense of the community's priorities?
I think so. As you know, we've just also at this meeting, which maybe we'll talk about later this morning, we set up just a process to get to a process on how to do more sort of strategic planning, because we have a lot of priorities. What you get the sense of is that there are many things that are priorities for different people. And then, of course, the board is often aware of priorities that the public might not see. So, for example, things like our infrastructure, our public safety. Public safety particularly is an issue where we put in more money and got more positions. And the public, our public safety people are great, and they do what they need to meet the needs of this community. But it's gotten harder and harder for them. So we put in money because we know we're getting to a point where we really need to be getting more positions and doing more. But for the public, they may not see all that much difference because they're getting good service. And what we need to do is make sure they continue to get that service.
Now, the public safety, where would people see, where
Well,
is the money going?
Well, where we had was, we have for a long time had 2 fire trucks that have not been fully staffed. That's 4 folks, 4 firemen. And that's the national standard, and that allows the fire folks to be sure that they're safe when they arrive on the scene. And you need to have, 1 person outside. You don't want to have ideally 2 people inside, and you need to have 1 other to give you some backup. So sometimes they'd have to wait for another truck to come. But mostly what we did is just do a lot of overtime and make people come in. So I think, again, I don't think people are going to see the difference, feel the difference. It's our employees that we're seeing feel it. And we've gotten to a point where the public would have started feeling it and seeing it. And we wanted to make sure we didn't get to that point on that.
In addition to the fire, you also added some funds for sheriff and
Yes.
police. So
Yes.
all 3.
All 3, yes. And the sheriff's been asking for more staffing for a while, and we've been giving her some. But this time we added 5 positions. And there was a little back and forth about when they would come on. They're not coming on immediately in the year, but when they come on board, the sheriff is quite pleased with that, and I think that will help a lot. She's had a lot of times where she's had to what you call lockdown, because they're not staffed enough to have people out and around as much, and that's not, again, that's not good for the staff, that's not good for the folks in the jail. So this will just allow us to provide better service and not have our own people get so tired.
So public safety is obviously was a big highlight in this budget.
Right. And I might, I didn't talk too much about the police, and I'd like to talk a little bit about
okay,
that too,
yes.
because we do have, I think as people see, we're becoming a very exciting urban environment.
Yes, indeed.
And we have our police, sometimes particularly when we have these things called bar crawls, a lot of folks in Clarendon, police come in and they were doing overtime, people maybe have to extend their shifts, and it's all in the effort to make sure citizens are safe, and they are. I think our police are doing a good job, but again, getting really tired doing it, and it's something you can do for short term, but long term.
Not sustainable.
Not
right.
sustainable. We needed to add some staff, so we did that.
So obviously public safety is a big highlight for this budget.
Absolutely.
Another highlight is the tax rate cut.
It is. With all of this, we're very lucky. We managed to lower the tax rate by a half penny. Now, that doesn't mean that people are going to see their taxes go down, because Arlington's such a wonderful place to live. More and more people want to come here, and then the value of everybody's property goes up. So if you keep the assessment the same and the value goes up, you still have an increase in your taxes. And what this did is that people will see a small increase in their taxes, but not nearly as much as they would have had we not been able to cut the tax rate by a half penny. We do have the lowest tax rate in the area, but we tend to have the higher taxes because the land
value.
is so valuable.
So the good news is the real estate's valuable, and the bad news is
the real estate's valuable. You have got it. The good news is we're doing a really good job in attracting people, and the bad news is we're doing a really good job in attracting people.
So speaking of attracting people, another highlight for your budget is the schools,
Yes.
Arlington, the public schools, which
Yes.
is experiencing increased enrollment.
Yeah.
But talk about the commitment made to the schools.
Yeah, we actually, so what happens is the manager works out his budget, and we have a revenue sharing agreement with the schools, so they know basically how much money that they, according to the agreement, they can count on. So the superintendent presents his budget based on that. And then what happened was we had some increases in funding, and actually we were able to, the manager in his budget, provide more than the superintendent had requested. And then this year, what happened was the school board started looking, they made some changes, and they came in with requesting even more above what the superintendent and above what the manager had put in his budget. So we've got several increases here. And clearly they've got, they have rising population. Our revenue sharing agreement takes that into account. They also wanted to do more for their employees. So they put in, for the first time ever, paid maternity leave it's only 2 weeks, but it's in there. And actually we will be the first school system in the state of Virginia to do that. And I think all those things, yeah, and we support that, yeah. And our teachers, I mean, the most crucial part of providing quality education is the quality of the teachers, and it's important to attract and retain the best. But we got down to the end where the schools came in with a request to us quite late in the process. And I will say in a budget of our size, $1.2, $1.4 billion, there's a lot of money. So in this case, a few million, $1 million is a lot of money, but in the scheme of things as a percentage, it's not a lot. If you start in the beginning of the budget process, like when the manager's developing his budget, it's not hard to find that money. If you wait until the end of the process,
yes.
which is what happened with the school board, and that's just happened that way. I'm not saying that they planned it or anything. It just happened that way. It's a lot harder to find that money. So in the end, we had some back and forth. People will hear about one-time and ongoing money. It's a little policy wonkish because money is money. But we have money that we sort of assume is going to be, every year is going to be spent, and then we have other money that comes in for one-time things, and we use that as one-time money. Schools wanted all of their money in ongoing, and by the time we'd gotten to the end of the process, we really couldn't do that very easily without cutting some things we'd already gotten in there. So we gave the schools actually as much as the school board had asked for, indeed a little bit more, but it wasn't in the mix of money that they wanted. But I'm confident we fully funded the schools. The schools are great and crucial to our well-being as a county.
And as a former school board member, you have an interesting perspective.
I do.
On the whole, for the
I
totality.
do. Sometimes I have to remember which hat I'm wearing. Yeah, and it's been great. I work very closely with Emma Viola-Sanchez, Dr. Viola-Sanchez, who's the chair of the school board. We've known each other for years, and we had a few phone calls going back and forth as we worked this through. Thank
you so much. You can read all the details about the fiscal year 17 budget on the county website. Go to arlingtonva.us and search budget. When we come back, we'll chat with the chair about some of the other important decisions the board took at its April meeting.
We've launched a new mobile app for iPhone and Android devices. It's called My Arlington, and it lets you easily access the county calendar and permit updates, stay up to date with the latest news, check transit schedules, and more. Download the My Arlington app today at the Apple or Google Play Store.
Welcome back to County Board Wrap-Up, our monthly in-depth look at actions the County Board took at its meetings. We continue now with Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey to explain some of the decisions the board took at its April meeting. So let's talk about a development issue that the board took action on in April, and that is the site plan for Central Place, which is an important project being constructed in Roslyn. And can you talk about what the board did?
Absolutely, and actually the point is it wasn't the site plan, it was a site plan amendment.
Yes,
it gets very involved. So this was a site plan that was approved back in '07, quite some time ago. And these projects take quite a long time, and now it's under construction moving forward. And over time, and as things get built, often the developer and the community start to realize, ooh, maybe those things that looked right in 10 years ago or so don't maybe make as much sense. So they came back with a few requests. The major discussion was on the plaza and the need for more outdoor dining space. And there was quite a lot of discussion. The developer, and they've been talking to restaurant owners, want to have more space for outdoor dining. And it was interesting because we had our commissions who came to us with a sense that we had to preserve all of this space in the public realm. We could not allow the developer to use it. But then, not only was the developer asking to do it, but so was the entire, from our viewpoint, the Roslyn community.
A lot of residents came out.
A lot of residents came and said, this is what we want. This is what we want. And I think we came up with a good decision. We increased the space as the developer wanted on the plaza. We made some sort of, I would call them tweaks in other areas. I don't want to get into all of the sort of details, but sort of trying it out on how the outdoor dining will work. You have to make sure that people can still move. But I think on the plaza, the outdoor dining is going to be very flexible so that when you have farmers markets or something going on, all of that furniture that can be pulled in, and then the plaza is available for the public. So it actually keeps it very flexible. And that really met the desires of the folks that live there. And that always, those are, to me, the real stakeholders in many ways. So that was important to me. We did ask for a little more contribution, a financial contribution from the developer. And that was sort of done on the fly a little bit at the last minute. And I think it's something that we're going to be looking at going forward, because we're having more and more of these kinds of requests. And I think we want the outdoor dining. We want it to be great. The community wants it.
To enliven it,
yes. But it's giving more sort of profit, if you will, to the developer who's doing it. So we probably should get something back. So I think you'll see probably more of that moving forward. But I think it's exciting. The most exciting thing, which we didn't have a lot of discussion on because it wasn't at all controversial, was the observation deck. That is going to be so exciting. We're now looking at a deck that's going to come out a little bit over the street. So it's going to be one of these things. I'm afraid of heights.
A little vertigo.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to work for me. But you can see down, like, because you're standing on like a clear surface. So that's really exciting. The developer went around the world looking at observation decks around the world to find out sort of what's the best practices, and made a number of changes, all of which we think are going to be really exciting.
That is going to be spectacular, and the view will be amazing.
It is going to be spectacular. I volunteered to them if they need anybody to do that in the future, that maybe when I retire, I'll volunteer to look at the observation decks around the world.
To do that, yes.
Yeah.
Now, the board also made a decision on the new turf field for Yorktown High School.
Yes.
And could you talk about that, and why do we install turf fields?
Sure. So turf fields, that's artificial surface, not grass, dirt. If you look at our fields that are grass and dirt, they take a lot of beating, and it's very hard for them to withstand a lot of use. And in fact, if it's raining and everything's muddy, you have to cancel games. If it's been raining and everything's muddy, you can't play on it to preserve the field, because it just gets beat up very quickly, and then you don't have a field
And we
at
have
all.
a limited number of fields.
We have a very limited number.
Popular.
They are, and more people want to use them. So the solution is artificial turf field, which they are expensive, but they give you like 3 times the amount of play on the fields, because if it's just rain, in fact, if it's raining but it's not too hard, kids, people still play on the fields. You can play afterwards, they're fine. One of the issues that's come up with these, so we've had them for a while and we keep increasing them, which I think is very important in our little small 26 square miles, because we've got a lot of people that like to be playing outside and on fields. But one of the things that has come up is what the material used for those fields, and there are some studies and some people that feel that using it's recycled rubber from tires, that those have got chemicals in them that are not that could be harmful to people's health. So this has what we call virgin rubber, which doesn't have those chemicals, and I think which should make people more comfortable. This is a technology that's changing a lot over time, and we are always trying to stay ahead of it. So as we replace fields, we will be continuing to use what is generally considered to be the best kind of material.
Changing with the times.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Anyway, it's exciting. This is a very exciting community.
And this field that you approved is for Yorktown High School.
Yes, it's on Yorktown. Well, but it's also for the community. I mean, any one of our fields. Obviously, Yorktown High School has it, but the high school's not on it all the time, and then it's available for other use.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break.
Sure.
When we return, 4 Mile Run Valley is getting a new working group, and Arlington honors its notable trees and another outstanding Park Service volunteer.
Warm weather means mosquito season in Arlington. This year, with concerns about the Zika virus, it's even more important to stay informed when it comes to minimizing your risk in fighting the bite. We currently do not have Zika-infected mosquitoes in Arlington or the DC metro area, but there have been travel-associated cases in our region. The 2 species of mosquito that have the ability to carry Zika virus, yellow fever and Asian tiger mosquitoes, do exist here. We will continue to monitor the Zika situation, and we recommend you stay informed as well. One of the best sources of information is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. On their website, you can find the latest health and travel advisories. And we encourage everyone to learn and practice basic mosquito protection methods to reduce health risks and the nuisance element that mosquitoes bring to our lives. Arlington's Public Health Division has come up with a series of tips that will help you fight the bite. We call them the 4 Ds. To learn more, visit our Mosquito Information Center at health.arlingtonva.us.
back with Arlington County Board Chair Libby Garvey. She is sharing with us insight into some of the other decisions that the county board took at its April meeting. So we have a new working group, and this one is for the 4-mile run valley.
Yes.
And can you talk to us about what the
What we
working...
did, sure. And this is right in my neighborhood. You know, I live in Fairlington, just right. I mean, I've been watching this area for some time. It has such potential. And one of the things we did with this working group, which I think is great, we had two processes kind of working along. One was an area plan, which, you know, planning a larger area along the 4-mile.
Kind of a long-range plan.
Right,
yes.
long-range plan and taking in a lot of space. And then park planning for a subset. And for a while, it was heading towards doing two kind of parallel processes, and we realized that doesn't make so much sense. Let's just do it
Because it's
together.
all one community.
It's all one community. It's the same folks, and it's the same land. It's an overlap. So it made so much more sense to put it all together, and that's what we did. So that's why we're calling it a working group, and they're doing both a park plan and an area plan. And we expect them to come to us with, we're going to have a robust community process, lots of folks involved, and they're going to come to us with recommendations, I think, for the plan in the spring. And then we'll probably be adopting it in the fall, and then we'll start to move forward and actually get some construction done. This has been a long time in coming. And in fact started a few years ago, and then there were political issues that I actually don't remember. It was sort of before my time that kind of made it all come to a halt for a while. And now we're finally getting going, and it's really long overdue and a very exciting area.
And so there will be plenty of opportunity, I would think, for the public to participate in this planning
Of course. It's going to be a
processes.
lot of folks, and people can certainly come and watch the meetings. And, you know, we are working on video streaming more meetings. We don't have the capability quite yet to be video streaming meetings outside of our boardroom, but we might by the time this group gets going. So hopefully that may happen too. And then again, folks can follow it either watching it live at the time from home, or later on, we would archive the videos. And whether we're going to have that or not, I don't know, but I hope we will, because it's important for these processes, I think, for people to be able to watch what's going on without having, again, to actually sit in a room in a long meeting.
It's always exciting to get when a planning process starts.
It
so
is.
this is gonna be
And it's
great.
just, you know, we've got the water, it's just really exciting. I can't wait.
Now, the board also took a couple of another look at green
We
things
did.
at the board meeting, and you honored notable trees. Can you talk about that? What is a notable
How
tree?
classically Arlington, right, to honor trees, but it's a great program. So every year, we pick these trees that are going to be honored in the program. It's a way of just keeping people's consciousness, I think, about trees in the area, and it encourages people to take care of the trees that they've got. There were 23 trees across the county that were honored, and one of them I said, I've seen that tree, it's gorgeous, and it's kind of fun to say, because trees, when they're really special, they almost become personalities, I think, and it's really important to sort of make them realize that they're an important part of our community. So we honor them, and they're there for, sometimes it's size, sometimes it's historic value, sometimes it's because it's a particular species, and we have two different levels. One level you get a nice sort of presentation, a plaque, and one you actually get something to put there, a metal plaque to put by the tree so everybody can see that this is a particularly notable tree. And we're just really trying to encourage people to take care of our natural spaces wherever they are, and often it's in private yards. And sometimes, I think several of our, Jane Rudolph from Parks and Rec was there because we have a few in our own parks that also won awards.
I
So
saw
was
that
great.
one tree that had been planted in the 60s in front of the fire
Yes,
station.
that was
it was in
very-
honor of a fallen firefighter.
Yes, and
And-
his family was there.
Yes.
And that was very emotional. They had planted in the firefighter's memory, and then here we were, I think it was 50 years later, honoring it as a notable tree.
Now, the board also honored the Bill Thomas Outstanding Park Service Volunteer.
Yeah.
And tell us about that winner.
Well, it was just brief. It was another wonderful award. Judy Funderburg. She's put in more than 6,000 hours of service
Wow.
to the community in
That's
our
an
parks.
amazing
She had the room was pretty full with her supporters there, and then she spoke and spent. First, she started out with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi, and then spent her entire remarks thanking people. I mean, how classic can you get? And in the end, saying if anybody would like any more help, she's offering more help to people. Classic Arlington volunteer. I mean, it's people like Judy that make this community what it is, and it was just delightful to have her there, and certainly a well-deserved award.
We're so fortunate in this community.
We are.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we will wrap up the County Board Wrap-Up.
Anywhere you drive in Arlington, you'll encounter county work crews who are outperforming daily tasks like cleaning streets, collecting leaves, or plowing snow. Driving safely around these vehicles is extremely important to avoid accidents or injuries. Trucks do not have the same stop-and-go capability as cars. Therefore, here are some safety tips our Department of Environmental Services would like you to remember. Please slow down around work zones and provide county vehicles and personnel additional space needed to safely operate. Trucks have blind spots between the doors and the rear of the vehicle. Stay out of these areas to ensure you are seen. Do not pull in front of a truck when you need to stop or slow down. Be sure to signal your intentions and do not make moves abruptly. When parking, be sure to park as close to the curb as possible. Most importantly, practice patience. Be a pal, predictable, alert, and lawful, and don't zone out. Finally, if you encounter unsafe behaviors from a county truck driver, report it to our Risk Management Office at 703-228-4444.
And we're back for our final segment of County Board Wrap-Up. We're with Chair Libby Garvey. Libby, at this board meeting, there was something during your chair's report. It wasn't an official board action, but something personal to you. And could you tell us about that?
Yeah, every month. This April is Donate Life Month. And as I said at the board meeting, my husband, who died very suddenly about 8 years ago, was an organ and tissue donor. And I wear this bracelet, this green bracelet, to encourage people to go online or when they sign up with their licenses and talk with their loved ones about donating organs. You know, nationally, there are over 120,000 people waiting for a life-saving transplant, and there are over 2,000 people here in this metro area. And in fact, one of my good friends, Chris Durall, is looking for a kidney. Every 10 minutes, another patient is added to the waiting list. There's so much that you can do to give life. There is such a need, and you really can give the gift of life. And it's very important to me, and I was pleased to be able to highlight that a little bit.
So there was quite a lot that you all accomplished at this meeting, quite a bit.
Yes, there really was. And I would encourage folks, the budget was huge. We did it, again, differently. And not only is it online and writing, you can actually go online and watch our work sessions. I think particularly our last work session, where we work through a number of items. You can see different sides, how we're thinking about it, what we're trying to balance. You can really see your government at work. And I hope people will take advantage of that video streaming that we're doing. It's archived. Watch it whenever it's convenient for you.
Video on demand.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana.
That brings us to the end of another County Board Wrap-Up, our monthly discussion with the County Board Chair of actions taken by the board at its regular meeting. Thank you for joining me and County Board Chair Libby Garvey. We hope you will join us next month for County Board Wrap-Up. We'll be taking a look at decisions that the board takes at its May meeting.
Arlington is a safe community, but when it comes to your kids, you can't be too careful. If your kids are spending time home without you, make sure they know these safety rules. Do not have friends over without an adult in the house to supervise.
Our parents aren't home. Okay, bye. Bye.
Keep your doors closed and locked when you're home alone. Do not open the door for anyone, even if you know the person. Don't answer the phone and never tell anyone you're home alone. Make sure you have a trusted neighbor you can go to if you need help and a list of emergency phone numbers to call. And remember, never hesitate to call the police if you think you spot suspicious activity. Call 911 for emergencies, and for non-emergencies, call 703-558-2222. For more safety tips, go to arlingtonva.us/police.